Need fast, reliable internet, or maybe an upgrade, or you just have questions.
And we say happy Election Day to you folks. It is the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. That means it's General Election Day all over this fine country of ours. And in case you're curious, by the way, how they chose that particular day, the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November as General Election Day, they did a tremendous amount of research, our founding fathers did, and discovered that the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November is the least important day of the year. I don't know, I just made that up. This is Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. I'm Dan Kuntz. The clouds and the fog that were prevalent yesterday at this time are gone. Scoured out of here. Going to be a little windy this afternoon for a very brief period of time. Not very long, only about 4 hours or so. It's going to be quite windy this afternoon. The winds will be peaking at about 2:30 and then gradually dying down. And we're in for a nice dry period. It'll be quite sunny once we get to the afternoon hours. Quite a bit of sunshine on Wednesday. Clouding up a little bit on Thursday, maybe a little bit of rain, back to sunshine, kind of going to go up and down a little bit. Temperatures back up to slightly above normal, as a matter of fact. Your weather forecast is coming up, as is the news, as is sports, including Pete Carroll's press conference. He does it every Monday after a Seahawk game on Sunday. We all know how the Seahawks did on Sunday. Pete's reaction from that, and since it is Election Day, and without question the highest profile contested race in our viewing area is who's going to succeed Mayor Frank Kuntz, who is leaving office after 3 terms. A former mayoral candidate and former city council member, Brian Campbell, ran for mayor 8 years ago, did not win. He's trying again. Mike Poyer, a sitting Wenatchee city council member, would also like to succeed Mayor Frank Kuntz. And if you haven't made up your mind already and you got till 8 o'clock to do it, we'll show you those 2 interviews that were conducted by Jefferson Robbins in the back half of the program. Now that we got all the festivities out of the way, let's go. The preliminaries anyway. Our views, we can use the Wenatchee Heights camera today. Couldn't yesterday, couldn't see anything. This is what the valley looks like, by the way, at this hour. The sun has been up officially for about 10 minutes. 6:53. Sunrise this morning, sunset 4:35. That's 9 hours and 42 minutes of daylight. We had almost 1/4 of an inch of rain in the 24-hour period from midnight to midnight on Monday. That's a lot of rain for us, 1/4 of an inch of rain. That's measured up at Payneborn, by the way, in case you're curious. And we topped off at 48, which is exactly normal for this time of the year on Monday. We'll be a degree or 2 warmer than that today. Up to Slide Ridge we go. This is a camera that was put in about a month ago. Slide Ridge is high above the south shore of Lake Chelan. They call it Slide Ridge because they've had all kinds of issues with, well, the ridge sliding down and covering up the highway and going into the lake. They have since pretty much alleviated that problem by putting in the bridge and the culverts so the water has a place to go. So we're looking down over the Manson area. You can see a little bit of Wapato Point there from Slide Ridge, high above the south shore of Lake Chelan, and a little bit of snow up there as well. Well, it's up there a ways. Lake Wenatchee is probably looking mighty fine, and there it is. Good morning to Lake Wenatchee. Still dealing with some clouds and some fog up there. That will be scouring out as the day progresses. Right now in Lake Wenatchee, wow, it's actually warmer in Lake Wenatchee. It's 45 than it is here in Wenatchee. It's 43. That's interesting. That doesn't happen too often. And finally, Hay Canyon. High above Cashmere, looking back towards the Wenatchee Valley, a stunning view there. My oak tree is pretty much at full color scheme right now, although I haven't lost a great many leaves on my tree. Some trees are completely bare, others still have almost every leaf still on it. That may change, obviously, with the wind coming up. That'll take some of the leaves off the area trees. Speaking of that, let's talk about the peak winds today. This is peak winds, not sustained winds, but it's going to be plenty windy for most people. You can see where you live. Those black arrows indicate the wind direction. So it's going to be rather breezy. Again, the peak hours of the wind will be between about 1:30 to about 2:30, with the windiest conditions around 2 o'clock. We're going to have sustained winds at about 20 miles an hour later on, but gusts between 35 and 40. A distinct possibility for the Wenatchee Valley. It's just not going to last very long. It's going to be a fairly short wind event as the system comes through. So get ready for some wind today. It'll die down a lot tonight. From the National Weather Service, it looks something like this. Clouds this morning, sunshine this afternoon. Winds pick up, of course, in intensity. Again, by mid to late morning, about 20 miles an hour, and then gusts between 35 and 40 in the mid to late afternoon hours, and a high of about 53, which is considerably warmer for this time of the year. A few clouds will keep us fairly mild, 36 for the overnight low. The normal overnight low for this time of the year is 33. Lots of sunshine, not a lot of wind, right around 50 or so for the afternoon high on Wednesday. Clouds will return Wednesday night, going to get a little cool, right around the freezing mark for the overnight low. Cloudy on Thursday, no rain, just lots of clouds, and a couple of degrees cooler because the overnight low is going to be a couple of degrees cooler. It'll take us a little while to warm up, and the days are getting shorter after all. So 43 is what we're pegging for the afternoon high on Thursday. One more day of bountiful sunshine and pretty nice temperatures on Friday, and then we start dealing with more rain, or at least a chance of rain on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, with temperatures slightly above normal, but a little bit on the wet side. So sunny and breezy this afternoon, sunny and calm all day Wednesday. We cloud up Thursday, sunshine returns Friday, clouds and a chance of rain for Veterans Day weekend. At your forecast, at 6 minutes after the hour, we'll have the news for you when we come back. You're watching Wake Up Wenatchee Valley on the NCW Life Channel.
At Confluence Health, our mission is clear: to provide exceptional care for our community. We believe in healthcare that's personal and local because we're just like you, members of this great community.
We are Confluence.
Local care by and for our community.
Local care by and for our community.
Local care by and for our community.
We are Confluence.
It's the music that revolutionized the sound of Christmas. Mannheim Steamroller Christmas by Chip Davis. Celebrating the holiday spirit for over 35 years. Don't miss this holiday extravaganza. Mannheim Steamroller Christmas by Chip Davis. America's favorite Christmas tradition.
Hi, this is Frank Kuntz, Mayor of the City of Wenatchee. Mike Poyer will make a great mayor. Mike is consistent, he's thoughtful, he shows up, he's prepared, and he always gets to the right answer. Mike just loves this town. He was born and raised here. He has a passion for making this place better, as we all do. And it's been a pleasure working with him on Wenatchee City Council for the past 4 years, and I just look forward to having him lead our city going forward. So join me in voting for Mike Poyer, Mayor.
43 degrees here in the big city. We'll be right around 50 with lots of wind and some afternoon sunshine. Beautiful day tomorrow, clouded up Thursday, sunshine Friday, clouds and rain, perhaps, at least clouds for the weekend. It's 8 minutes after the hour. Gunfire at Moses Lake on Sunday led to a crash on Highway 17, and it injured a couple of men. Grant County Sheriff's deputies say a 20-year-old driver opened fire on another vehicle in traffic at about 4:45 on Sunday afternoon, wounding one of the occupants. Also forced the vehicle into a rollover crash in the area between Grape Drive and Patton Boulevard. The suspect driver in a black Dodge Charger arrested after a short high-speed pursuit. Suspect is identified as Sergio Higuera of Moses Lake. He's currently in the Grant County Jail in Ephrata on pending charges of first-degree assault and drive-by shooting. The victim was treated at a nearby hospital. Wenatchee Valley Veteran Organizations will be hosting a free Veterans Day event this Saturday, November 11th. Veterans Day, it's going to happen at the Pybus Public Market. Tony Sandoval, a good friend of ours, he's with the Washington Department of Veterans Affairs. He says it's a public event, it's free. It'll be at the Pybus Public Market this Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., following, of course, the traditional downtown Veterans Day parade in Wenatchee. There'll be entertainment and a no-cost meal if you're a military service veteran and a family member of a military service veteran. The project put together by multiple veteran services, including the Wenatchee Veterans Hall, the VFW, and the American Legion. The U.S. Geological Survey spent last summer looking at the bottom of Lake Chelan. It's pretty interesting stuff, I might add. They were looking about how glaciers and earthquakes combined to shape Lake Chelan, and now that research team is going to show off its findings to the public. USGS researchers will present their study next week at the Ruby Theater in downtown Chelan. The project looked at lake bottom sediments to understand events like the 1872 Antioch quake that temporarily dammed the Columbia River, as well as evidence from underwater landslides and glacial activities. The presentation is sponsored by the Lake Chelan Research Institute and monitors the lake's aquatic health. That takes place at 7 o'clock Thursday, November 16th at the Ruby in downtown Chelan. Ron Brown has been with Wenatchee School District for over 30 years. He's the Director of Technology, Innovation, Safety, and Security, and has been a large part of the Wenatchee School District's technological initiative since computers were introduced as an educational tool. Well, tomorrow, Ron Brown will be the recipient of a Lifetime Achievement Award during the NCW Tech Alliance's Innovators Luncheon. Ahead of the award ceremony, he sat down with us to reflect on his career.
With the need in the school district for more teachers know how to use computers, how do we use them in the classroom, there really wasn't mechanisms to help staff with how to use these new things called the computer. So we had our first program was for a technology coach, which I was hired to do, and that was to train teachers, help teachers how to use the tools. And then from there, as the program grows and as computers become, more commonplace, they needed somebody to coordinate that, manage that program around how do you use the tools in the classroom? What tools do we need in the classroom? And how do we use it appropriately to engage kids? So went from a coordinator to a director of instructional technology, and then right before the pandemic, we combined our technology department. So we combined our instructional side and our operational side. So now I'm in charge of everything that from plugging it in, making it work, the network services, along with the professional development or the training that we do with staff. I think some of the challenges and highlights probably are the same. I think the pandemic obviously comes to mind first. We're not that far out of it, and I would say in the world of technology, that was an incredible problem, but it was also an incredible opportunity. So, dollars from the federal level, from the state level, the importance of hybrid learning, online learning, and all of those things that we had been pushing, trying to get to for many years, obviously became important overnight. So it was probably the biggest challenge of my career, but also the biggest opportunity in my career too. So that, we went from a program where we had a lot of students with devices, most staff with devices, to instantly all students with devices, all staff with devices, and then how do we use those? What systems do we use? So we had to stand up a lot of support. We had to stand up some things. And I would say stand up, we had those systems in place, they just weren't scaled. So it was an opportunity to scale them with some new dollars and some new thinking. We didn't really add staff, we just got it done with the staff we had. And from day one, the staff in the tech department worked. We came to work. We masked up and got her done, and stood in line and handed out devices. And so just from the amount of work, the changes that happened daily, that was probably the most challenging thing in my career by far. But also, I think at the end of the day, the most rewarding, because it was a huge accomplishment. I think with any award, the award isn't for the person. It represents a giant body of work that isn't my responsibility. These are people for a long time that have achieved great things and have accomplished, whether it's projects or partnerships or trainings or just things that we've adopted or embedded in the school district. That didn't come from me doing it. That came from potentially my vision, maybe an idea or in a committee, but that came from the doers, which is the technology departments, the safety security department, the teaching staff, and really the leaders, the school board and the leadership that was above me at the time to support those types of projects. So I just really think it's important with any award, we recognize there had to have been sponsorship above to carry it out, fund it, but also buy-in from all the people that carry out those projects and whatever that vision is, because no one can do it by themselves.
And of course, in case you missed it, it's Election Day. Folks, yep, it is Election Day. You got till 8 o'clock to get your ballot in to your local auditor's office. You don't mail it, it won't get there on time. It's as simple as enough. A lot of high-profile local races up for grabs, especially in Chelan County, the mayorships of Wenatchee, Leavenworth, and Chelan. 3 seats on the closely watched race for Wenatchee School Board. Again, at this point, you got to drop it off at a drop box. They will lock them solid at 8 o'clock tonight at the various drop boxes all over north central Washington, and we will have election results on our Facebook page and our homepage as soon as we get them after 8 o'clock tonight. And in case you missed it, one more chance to check out the interviews with Wenatchee mayoral candidates Brian Campbell and Mike Poyer in the back half of the program, and that's the news a quarter after the hour. We'll have one more newscast for you tonight at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 10 o'clock, 5, 6, and 10, the news on TV. If that doesn't work, you can watch it on the World Wide Web. We'll have our news up and running on our Facebook page, on our homepage, ncwlife.com, and on our YouTube page. And if there's a news tip, get a hold of us. Send us an email, news@ncwlife.com. Sports, the obscure holiday, today in history, some birthdays, celebrity birthdays anyway to pass along, plus an opinion from Mike Mad Dog McNaughty. All coming up in a Tuesday edition of Wake Up in Wenatchee Valley on the NCW Life channel.
Check out clubcrowcashmere.com for upcoming events and tickets.
Sports is 17 minutes after the hour. Of course, the Seahawks dropped to 5-3 after a rather disheartening 37-3 loss to the Ravens in Baltimore on Sunday. The last couple of games after that season-ending injury to Uchenna Nwosu, Seattle has allowed 453 yards rushing. Coach Pete Carroll says, well, obviously they got to get better against the run, but of course the other team runs the ball.
No, we miss Jenna now. Jenna's a really good football player, and I said, we wouldn't be able to replace his contribution. We'd have to do it in different ways with different guys, so that's a little bit of a factor. We just faced the 2 top running teams in the NFL also, basically, and so these guys, they know what they're doing. We didn't expect to shut them down. We were hoping to control it a whole lot better than we did, but I think it's really just running those 2 teams back to back that makes it look like there's some question here.
153 yards of total offense on Sunday. That's it. We were 1 for 9 on third down conversions. Coach Pete says that weighs heavily on the quarterback.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, we've already talked about it, and started the conversation, and moving forward. We struggled across the board on offense, and so that everybody had some difficulties in this game, and it just added up to where the quarterback is in the middle of that as well. And so we have to do a lot better. We got to protect better. We got to, we had some communication things that we can clean up, and all of that. But I think that Gino's, consistent accountability, I think is really a strength of his, and it helps the guys around him. But we got to help him. We got to make sure we're doing our part.
Offensively, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett have been missing practice because of injuries.
Well, it doesn't help us, certainly. We need to be out there. The practice is very valuable to us. So anybody that misses, you stand to lose a little bit, and particularly with the intricacies of the throwing game, it does affect us some. Because of some of the time in those practices, we're not at full tempo, so that affects us. As far as the communications, I would like the guys to be out there with the younger guys, because we got a couple young guys that are out there that need to feel that continuity too. They have to make some calls too out there, and when we're together, they'll be better, when they're out there more time in practice. So we'd love that. Those guys are both, I think they made it through pretty good this week, and should have a chance to be in pretty good shape for this upcoming week. But we can only do what we can do. We got to get those guys to game time. So you are going to lose a little bit in continuity-wise.
Seahawks and the Washington Commanders, Lumen Field, Sunday afternoon, 1:25 on Fox. Seattle Kraken in Phoenix tonight. They lost to Calgary on Saturday 6-3, so Coach Dave Haxtell shaking up the lineup to get more players involved on the offensive end. We've struggled scoring goals. Part of that, they've been shifting Kaylor Yamamoto around.
Everybody's different. First of all, to be able to move up the lineup, you have to have the skill and the ability to move up the lineup. There's certain guys that are really well suited for, bottom six types roles that bring an element that's extremely important, but they're probably not guys that are comfortable or looking to move up and down your lineup. Yamo's a guy that, to be able to play on the fourth line, he has to make sure his competitive two-way game is excellent. He's got to be thinking the right way in terms of checking and taking care of the puck. And then on the flip side, he has, he's going to automatically, want to look to create offense, and he should, because we need offense from that bottom group. And now the ability to move up for Yamo is, he's got to make the adjustment. He's got to be a good two-way player there. He's obviously probably going to see, a little bit different level of D pairs and combinations. But there's a little bit more of a press there to produce offensively. So he's got to find that balance now in the spot that he is in.
Kraken and the Coyotes at Mullet Arena in Phoenix, 6 o'clock tonight on Root Sports Northwest. All right, everybody is now in the state tournament mode, so where are the local teams going to play? Let's start with 4A soccer. Eastmont's first game is going to be Wednesday at 5 o'clock at Gonzaga Prep. Of course, from this point forward, you have to win to keep your season alive. The Wenatchee Panthers will play in Bothell Wednesday at 6 o'clock against Woodinville. Cashmere will host Natchez Valley in the first round of the State 1A soccer tournament. That's going to be Wednesday at 5 o'clock. The State 1B, 2B tournament gets underway today at 5 o'clock for Okanagan. The Bulldogs are at Mount Vernon High School to take on Mount Vernon Christian. Tenasket will take on Onalaska in the first round at 3 o'clock Wednesday. That'll be at Lee Bofto Field at the Apple Bowl here in town. Fred and Ellensburg have to wait until Friday for the State 2A volleyball tournament in Yakima, the gateway to Wapato. The Tigers will take on Ridgefield in the first round at 10:45. Ellensburg will take on Washington High. Friday is also the first day of the State 1A tournament. Chelan will take on Montesano at 10:45, and the State 2B volleyball tournament. That'll begin tomorrow morning at 9:45. Okanagan will take on Napavine. Manson will take on Kalama in the first round. Soap Lake has a bright and early 8 a.m. volleyball match tomorrow morning at the State 1B tournament. The Eagles will take on Darrington. It's a play-in game. Indiana set to face Northport at 11:45. That's the same time for Waterville Mansfield against St. John, Endicott, Sprague, Simon, and Garfunkel. And those are just some of the games that people are playing at 23 minutes after the hour. For your Obscura holiday today is National Hug-A-Bear Day today. Now, we don't recommend that you actually go out and find a bear and hug it. You will be mauled and quite possibly critically injured. It's all about teddy bears and how they came to be. I think you know the story by now. Teddy Roosevelt was the president of the United States in 1902. He was in Mississippi. A bunch of local dignitaries said, let's take the president bear hunting down there in Mississippi. So they went bear hunting with the president. The only problem is they couldn't find any bears. So one of the president's aides found a baby black bear that had been separated from its mom. They trapped it and they tied it to a tree. Then they called President Roosevelt over there and said, here you go, there's the bear. And you go, I'm not going to kill a baby bear that you tied to a tree. I'm going to do it. So they untied it and they cut it loose, and it became as viral as anything could become viral 121 years ago, and it went nationwide, and somebody in New York said, hey, I'm going to take advantage of this and come up with a teddy bear. Probably the most famous stuffed animal of them all. National Hug-A-Bear Day. Make it a teddy bear, not a real bear. Unless it's Yogi Bear, who is smarter than the average bear, of course. Just keep an eye out for your pick-a-nick-a-basket. It's 24 minutes after the hour. Of course, we've been doing presidential elections, and today in history, it's that time of the year. The election of 1876 was one big fat mess. Unbelievable. When it was all said and done, Samuel J. Tilden of New York had 184 electoral votes. Rutherford B. Hayes had 165, so he was down 19 votes. There were 20 votes that were contested, electoral votes with both the states. There were 4 states who sent electors from both parties. It was all cattywampus. They didn't like it, so they cut a deal. It was called the Compromise of 1877, just a couple of days before the president was supposed to take the oath of office. The agreement was this: Democrats would give up the 20 electoral votes, which would give Rutherford B. Hayes the White House by 1 electoral vote. And in exchange, the Republicans would take all the troops still in the South after the Civil War and send them home. That was the compromise. Samuel Tilden won 51% of the vote, and he lost the general election. In fact, that's the largest share of the popular vote anybody ever got. That didn't actually win the election, and this is the only election in American history where both the candidates, Sam Tilden of New Jersey and Rutherford B. Hayes of Ohio, were the governors of their respective states. The election of 1876, it was a mess. The election of 1916 was a bit of a mess. The incumbent president, Woodrow Wilson, wins, beats Charles Evans Hughes, but barely, but he won re-election. The decisive state, California. Late returns from California put Woodrow Wilson over the top. He won the state by 3,773 votes and thus the presidency. In Chelan County, Charles Evans Hughes won 48% of the vote to Wilson's 44%. In Douglas County, Wilson got 60% of the vote. Douglas County used to be a Democratic stronghold back in the days. It isn't anymore. One of the popular legends of the campaign is when Charles Evans Hughes went to bed on election night, he thought he was the president of the United States. The next morning, when the California results came in, somebody from the press called up his office and said, "We'd like to speak to Charles Evans Hughes," and the guy who answered the phone said, "The president can't be disturbed." And the reporter says, "Well, when he wakes up, tell him he's no longer the president." The election of 1916. 1944, make it 4 in a row for FDR. He beats Thomas Dewey for an unprecedented 4th term. Won fairly handily. The popular vote was pretty tight, but the Electoral College was a landslide. This is the most recent presidential election when the Democratic candidate won the entire solid South. It is now, of course, almost entirely Republican. Ironically enough, in Chelan County, Dewey beat Roosevelt 52% to 48%, but in Douglas County, Roosevelt won by 23 votes. Pretty tight here. Locally, the presidential election of 1944. Presidential election of 1972, Nixon in a landslide. He is the last presidential candidate to get more than 60% of the popular vote. Richard Nixon, of course, easily won Chelan County and Douglas County. Nobody knew at the time the shenanigans that the Nixon campaign had been up to. That would eventually be revealed in Watergate. Nixon wins in a landslide on this date in 1972. The election of, there's the Nixon one. The election from 23 years ago. This was also a mess. George W. Bush, Al Gore, and it took a long, long time to get this baby figured out. Of course, on election night, nobody knew who won. This went on for a while. Finally, the Supreme Court, in their famous 5-4 decision, stopped the Florida recount. So George W. Bush won the state of Florida by 537 votes, and thus the presidency. By the way, he easily won, George W. Bush easily won Chelan and Douglas counties with like 65% of the vote or something like that. That took a long time. One non-related presidential event, the Gallup and Gertie goes down just 4 months after she opened for business. I think we've all seen the footage. Of course, it spanned the Tacoma Narrows. It took them only not very long to build it. The problem is, of course, they built it cheap. It was originally supposed to be well designed. They were going to spend $11 million on it. Then they realized the tolls weren't going to be enough to cover the construction costs. They went back to a group of engineers who said, "We can build it for $6 million." So they built it for $6 million, and one of the engineers at the meeting in 1938, before they started construction, said, "This thing is going to collapse. It's windy. It ain't going to work. It's not going to take very long. It's not going to take a great deal of wind." It only took winds of about 25 to 30 miles an hour to make that thing sway. On this particular day, the winds were about 40 miles an hour. It was the construction workers, when they were building the damn bridge, who gave it the nickname Galloping Gertie. The last person on the bridge, that guy, trying desperately to get off, Leonard Coatsworth. He was an editor at the Tacoma News Tribune. He was the last person to drive on the bridge. He made it to the middle, said, "I ain't doing this," and he got the hell off. In his car was his dog, Tubby, a Cocker Spaniel. So afterwards, there was a little bit of lull as the bridge was going back and forth, and so two people, a news photographer and somebody else, went out to Coatsworth car to try and get Tubby out of the back seat of the car. Tubby was terrified, bit one of the rescuers, and then that happened. Down goes the bridge, down goes the car, down goes Tubby, the Cocker Spaniel, and after only 4 months, Galloping Gertie collapses to the ground. By the way, Coatsworth got his money. He got $450 for the car, and he got $364.40 for what was in the car. That included his personal belongings and the dog. The governor of the state of Washington said, we're going to rebuild this bridge immediately. They didn't. They didn't rebuild it for another 10 years. And when they rebuilt it, it didn't fall down. Galloping Gertie falls down November 7th, 1940. Birthdays. Billy Graham preached the gospel to more people in the history of the planet. They figure about 2.5 billion people at one point or another heard Billy Graham, the Reverend Billy Graham, preach the gospel, born in the state in 1918. An amazing statistic. At the end of the year, the Gallup poll does a list of the most admired people. He made that list 61 times. The legendary Billy Graham was born 105 years ago today, and Joni Mitchell, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Happy 80th to Joni Mitchell. Still to come, an opinion from my Mad Dog Minotti. One more time to take out, decide if you haven't decided yet on who you're going to vote for Wenatchee Mayor. The interviews with Mike Poyer and Brian Campbell, conducted by Jefferson Robbins. Thanks to our platinum sponsor, Alpine Air. Thank you, Alpine Air, for taking care of us here at the NCW Life Channel for heat and air. Call Alpine Air. You're watching a Tuesday edition of Wake Up Wenatchee Valley on the NCW Life Channel.
Coming home should never be a chore. Let Merry Maids of Wenatchee customize all your cleaning needs. Weekly, bi-weekly, special occasion. Do you have a vacation home that needs cleaning? We clean them too. Locally owned and operated, let Merry Maids do the cleaning while you focus on your family and friends. Merry Maids has special offers to fit your budget. Request your free cleaning estimate today. 509-663-1710.
Magnotti, and everybody is entitled to my opinion. And I'm going to bet, with housing prices where they are these days, we're going to see a return to, or at least a new phenomenon of multi-extended family or extended generational family living. You know, if the average family income was about $57,000 and the average home price being $450,000, I mean, come on, we can't see how new home ownership for a single family is going to be feasible. Extended family members or multiple families sharing a home and mortgage is probably going to become a new trend. Good thing or bad? Well, who knows? I mean, I wouldn't mind if my daughter's family moved in with us in the same house, but my son? This is Mike Mad Dog Magnotti, and that's my opinion.
When your heating or cooling system is giving you trouble, call the diagnostic doctor from Dick's Heating and Air Conditioning.
Here's the culprit right here.
All joking aside, when you call Dick's, you're calling 35 years of experience at customer service right here in the Wenatchee Valley. Dick's strongly believes in repairing before replacing, and they service all major brands of HVAC units.
Jefferson Robbins here with NCW Life. Mayor Frank Kuntz is leaving the office of the city of Wenatchee. After 12 years, a new mayor will be sitting in that seat. One of the folks who wants to fill that office joins me now. Mike Poyer, member of the Wenatchee City Council. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You have Mayor Kuntz's endorsement as the candidate to replace him. You've also praised his work as mayor, said he's done a good job. What does Mayor Mike Poyer do differently from the Frank Kuntz administration?
So first of all, Mayor, you said he's endorsed me, and he is. He believes he knows what I've done in the past, I think, and I think that's the key. And it's okay. Him and I, we both try so hard, and which is nice. But the the transparency is, we do everything legal transparency. There's no question about that. But I believe in trying to get information out better. And I do know we're looking at a website actually to change, but it has to be, the mayor has to be out there all the time. And Mayor Kuntz is out there a lot. But I think there's a form of government, and some things happen actually, like you mentioned earlier about last night. And I think so transparency, and this housing crisis is unbelievable. And where do we start? And there's some neat things, but when you have one program, you need 100 more to get this to work, and we're all doing it. So definitely affordable housing is obviously homelessness, and that's something that needs to be addressed more and more and more. And this is tough.
And the council with you on it in the past year has passed an ordinance removing living in your vehicle as an option on the streets of Wenatchee. You need to be someplace, that vehicle needs to move at times, et cetera.
It's great, and we're talking about the homeless. So right now what's getting implemented is some signs that you're going to start seeing at the parks. And these signs are going to say no trespassing. And that's something we're getting finally the steps, the city council, the current city council, and the mayor, current mayor, we finally got to some steps. Now we can actually push some issues here. We got to remember though, there are mom or dad, brother, sister. It's people that, they're humans. So we got to make sure we understand that correctly. And we need to make sure we take care of our share. And that doesn't mean we allow other cities to say, okay, well, you can just take them. That's not the way it is. And we need to make sure we contact other cities that if they are transporting people here or only give them enough money to get here, that's not the right thing to do, because they need to be where their family's at and where their city's at. And I think sometimes we forget that. Again, we need to be responsible for our own, but not for other people's. And every city and county needs to take care of their share.
How do we determine the residency, though, quote unquote, of a person who is without housing? By definition, they are not residents anywhere.
So one thing that I want to do after I'm mayor that we're not currently doing, we're kind of hit and miss. I want all of our community member groups for not just housing, but like even if it's the YMCA or it's the YWCA or SAGE, these organizations, actually my goal is either once a week or whatever, we're actually going to go to where people are at and say, you know that we have services here, you know we can help. And I'm not, I know that's an approach that will help, even if it helps 2 people every week. And if we continue that, instead of sitting there waiting for them to come to us, we actually do go out to them. I think it makes total sense. If you're on the streets and you have a drug problem, and you can sit there and a counselor's talking to you or somebody's talking to you that has experience and expertise, and they go, we have options here. And people want to be loved. They want to be cared for. Not cared for, it's not a responsibility to enable them by any means, but it's definitely our responsibility to say, here's some services, let's get you back on your feet. And I think that's going to help with a majority of that, especially if we're out there every week with these groups. And that's something that I'm excited about, because that's a way we're going to get homeless guidance, and we're going to get some homeless in a different direction, and we're going to get some homeless help to realize, where's your family? If somebody says, hey, my family is in Moses Lake, then really some of these services could contact maybe their parents or their loved ones, say, hey, your loved one's here, and try to maybe reconnect, and make it, it's humanitarian. I mean, when it's all said and done, we all want to be back with people that love us. And I think that's one option, one of 100 options that we can do to help with homelessness.
Do you see things like the homeless low barrier push, the pallet shelters, the safe park for mobile homes? Do you see projects like that continuing under an administration if you were elected?
Today, 40% of the people in the safe park 1 and 2 actually have jobs just like us. They get up, they might have a different job. They might be working in the orchards, but they get up at 4 in the morning. they have jobs, and so they just can't do it because they don't have enough money. So what a great opportunity. It'd be awesome if we could have 80% of those people in that park that are progressing. And that's the deal. You have to progress in this. I see more during my administration, I see more that we hold people responsible. Now, holding people responsible is going to be a little bit different for each individual. For you, it might be to make sure I wear my coat and tie today. Well, because you know you have an interview. For some people, it might be get rid of one of my 10 bikes on top of my car. But if they do that and they're progressing, that's a great thing, you know, because then we're getting somewhere. So that's kind of, so the answer is yes. I want to continue the safe parks. I think there needs to be changes on it. And the low barrier pallet housing, which should help with 88 people, allow us to do some of these things back to no trespassing in parks.
What kind of steps can the city take under your administration to try and keep housing that's affordable and build our supply of affordable housing for people just starting out?
Yeah, there's an organization, and it's called Common Ground, and the executive director, I think it's Tom Neese, I believe it is. And I've met with him like 2 or 3 times, and the more I understood it, and we went actually from item to item, and he's creating, you have to qualify, you only can make so much money, and then you qualify for a home. The HUD program or a vet program had it, I remember 25 or 30 years ago, and it really worked. So if you qualify for this home, then you get into this, it's a cute little home. I've seen all the diagrams of it. And then there's going to be 8 built here in the next year or so. And they're getting some money from federal, they'll get some money from federal plus private. And how that works, it's really a neat deal. How it works is there has to be a certain income. Let's say it's $60,000 a year. So today's nurse might make $65,000. I'm not sure what a nurse would make, but you're right. Nurses get jobs here and they leave the same week because they can't, they're like, I can't afford housing here. It just doesn't make any sense. So there's definitely a need there, obviously. But anyway, so what happens is when you sell this home, first of all, 60% of the people in it, because this program is going on in other cities, 60% of the people actually get a market house. They'll actually move out, and they'll move out, and then they get to take some of their equity and go, and then it goes to the next person.
Well, Mike, in your professional job, you're an insurance agent. And in 2020, you entered a consent decree with the Office of the Insurance Commissioner, and you were fined $3,000 for unilaterally switching clients' homeowners' policies from one insurance company to another without their knowledge or consent. That's according to the language of the consent decree. What happened?
What I was trying to do, one company was struggling on paying a certain claim that I believe should have been paid, and I didn't want to represent that company. I didn't think it was best for our customers, so I was trying to move those customers over to the other customers. There was never any lapse in coverage. They all signed, anytime somebody gets transferred over, they always sign the application. And it was just, it was a funny deal. It was a funny deal, but then result, I know I was doing the right thing for the customer. One customer says, "Hey, I didn't get this letter. I didn't get a phone call," and I could not prove that I didn't call him. So that one customer is actually still with me. He actually switched to the other company after it was explained. And I'm the one that encouraged him to call the insurance commissioner, because I says, I believe we did everything correct and accurate, but please call the insurance commissioner. So to me, that's transparency. I encourage this person to call the insurance commissioner.
You then had to open up your practices to the insurance commissioner's office and say, this is how it happened, and these are the steps we took or should have taken.
Yes.
What do you think is the state of Wenatchee right now, Mike?
The state of Wenatchee needs a strong leader to, it is tough. It is tough for every city. And I believe most cities, and there's no exception. This is tough. And it's tough because we're used to certain things. We some people say, hey, we don't want to grow anymore, but yet there's state laws out there that says we do have to grow, and we have to bring in so much land and use into the city. It's frustrating. This is a tough commitment, and you're going to have knowledge. You have to have knowledge to know how to get financing to finish Confluence Parkway. And it's going to have to be a mayor that can go to legislation and explain their case. And it's the situation in Wenatchee this is perfect timing for me, to be honest with you, because I'm like all in. And that's what's going to be nice, because I actually have goals, dedication, and that's what's going to be nice. And I have the knowledge, and that's what's fun. It's very exciting and fun. But we're in a position, we're in a pendulum right now. We're in a position of which direction are we going to go here.
Mike Poyer, candidate for mayor of Wenatchee. Thanks a lot for sitting down with us.
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you.
You're watching the NCW Life channel. Jefferson Robbins with NCW Life. It's the first contested mayor's race in about 12 years, and the candidate who joins me as a candidate for Wenatchee mayor is one of the guys who was running 12 years ago. Brian Campbell, thanks a lot for being here.
Thanks, Jefferson. Pleasure to be here.
Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, Brian, and your background, and what do you think makes you fitted for this job?
Well, as I've said before, I'm a Wenatchee native. Love the town and love the people, and want to help. I want to be a true public servant. Not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. And if you look at the history and what I enjoy doing, it's community service. I said over 100 years. It's actually 150 years when I added them all up, the different organizations I've been involved with. And I just love that. I love helping people and making their lives better. And that's why I decided to enter the race again this time. I really wasn't planning on it. But recently, people have been coming to me and asking me to step up. That's who I'm answering to. The people have really been fed up that the crime and the businesses being driven out, the homelessness. People are really upset about that, and we don't want to see this beautiful town that's the best place in the world to live go down that road.
Well, your statement there ties homelessness together with crime. Is it a crime to be homeless? And should our response to homelessness be one of police enforcement?
I think it's a combination. There's a lot of compassion for the homeless, and that's part of our problem right now, is that we're getting homeless from other areas, and we need to take care of our homeless, absolutely. Wenatchee's homeless come first in my mind. If they're coming in from Spokane or Tri-Cities or Seattle, because we are so compassionate, we've got some great services for the people that need them. And there's a lot of issues involved. There's, of course, mental health issues, drug issues, kind of go together. We've got to address that, and we've got to get those people back into society and be productive members of society. And I've interviewed a lot of the homeless, and most of them do have drug or mental illness issues. There are a few local ones, homeless people that have they've lost their jobs. And sometimes they've lost their jobs because of chemical dependency, but they're back on the right track. I know of a couple in particular that were about to have job interviews and try to get back in and get some affordable housing. And I'm pretty excited for those people to get back on track. But we tend to have government tends to have a tendency to kind of put them out of sight, out of mind, so that the general population doesn't run across and see what looks like small internment camps. They're concerned that once people get into those situations that they don't get out. And that's where the resources need to be spent, in my mind, is making sure that we're working with those people to get them back on track. And you can't just go and buy them a house and say, there you go.
You said, I think, that Wenatchee's homeless need to come first. Well, when homelessness is a migratory experience, people are moved, or circumstances move them from one place to another when they have no shelter. So how do you distinguish between Wenatchee homeless and homeless who happen to be in Wenatchee?
One of the things that we needed was low barrier shelters, because when people come in and they have a substance abuse problem, they can't get into some of the facilities because they require that they be clean before they get into those facilities. And so we needed the low barrier facilities to get them in. Once we get them in, then we can work on getting them actual rehabilitation. But in that process, with the low barrier shelters, they do have the ability to identify the people coming in, fingerprint, whatever it takes, so that they can track them through the system. And I don't believe that's happening. And so you end up, they get lost in the system. Similar to coming across the border and not identifying who people are.
Does that mean you deny services to people who can't show quote-unquote residency in Wenatchee? I mean, this is a difficult question.
That's a very difficult question. That's why I say with the low barrier shelters, at least you have the ability to identify who they are and where they are. And that is the toughest question. You certainly don't just say, sorry, you know, we can't take care of you, you're gonna have to freeze out here. No, we have to take care of everybody, but there has to be a process where we try to get the services for those people in the cities where they're from. We just can't be overwhelmed with that. It drains all of our resources, and we've got some sort of a balance there.
You mentioned the perceived unsightliness of some shelter outreach programs. I think maybe you're speaking about the safe parks that the city has opened on either end of Wenatchee.
Yeah.
Do you see the Safe Park project continuing if you were mayor? Is that an obligation that you see the city having to maintain, or do you want to see it ended or changed?
I see a labeling issue a lot of times with those. I would call those unsafe parks. If you look at Safe Park 2, they've already been a couple of vehicles burned. There's drugs going on in those safe parks. They're supposed to be drug-free, but there's not really any way to monitor that. So they're in the low barrier shelters because they're not clean, so to speak, as far as drugs go. And therefore, you can expect that it's continuing while they're there. So the more you enable that population to stay in that state of condition that they're in, the more apt they are to stay in that condition. So I want to see them get circulated back out into society.
We're talking about $1,200 to $1,900 for very small apartments if they're available. We're talking about median home prices that are north of $500,000 and rising. So what part can the city play in trying to get a supply of affordable housing in Wenatchee?
The affordable housing part of that is so important. And we did have, as you're aware, 84 units of affordable housing in the system just coming online, just south of the high school. And for some reason, I mean, at our last interview, that's one thing we talked about, and everybody was for affordable housing, 100%. We had an obligation, to provide that affordable housing. And less than a month after that interview, the city council voted to eliminate all 4 of those 84 affordable housing units. And the developer was enriched with millions of dollars in equity because now they can charge their market rates of approximately $1,650 a month instead of somebody came in and they made $4,000 a month. 30% of their income can only go towards housing, so that would be $1,200 a month, and they would have to offer those units at $1,200 a month. So that differential of $450 a month at a capitalization rate of 6.5%, i.e. a rate of return of an investor, it equates to $6.9 million in equity on that cash flow. So that was just so disappointing to see the developers get that kind of money, and potentially 84 families lost the ability to get affordable housing.
Brian, Dominic Bonney, a local investigative reporter, in his blog this week disclosed a photo that you posted on Facebook with a Wenatchee Valley Fire Department response vehicle. According to Dominic's reporting, the department says they asked you not to use that photo for campaign purposes, but you were wearing a campaign pin and you posted the photograph to your Facebook. Was posting the photo the right decision when you've been asked not to?
Once again, like I told Dominic in my response, once again, the information is incorrect. I showed up at the fire station to take pictures from the outside. My photographer thought it'd be really cool to have a picture of the fire trucks in the bay. I said, you can't do that. And he was kind of persistent about, well, why not? Didn't understand the rules. And I thought, okay, I'll get him the answer that he needs to hear. So I said, okay, you go ahead. Because he said, can I ask him? Can I ask him? I said, okay, go ahead. So we went and asked him, and of course they came out and said, you know, we can't be perceived as supporting any particular candidate. We have to remain neutral. And they, according to the revised code of Washington, the RCW, they cannot, use their apparatus or any of their products in the advertising. So no problem. I knew that was the case. I knew the law, I think, guess better than they did. So we went back outside, and they said, well, let's just get a picture by the SUV. That's a whole different thing. And then we weren't told not to do that. So, I mean, they're tying the two things together, but they're not the same. Took that picture and posted it. There's no problem with that. It's not an issue. And it was not in response to, you can't take that picture.
The newest campaign signs that you have put out, Brian, have the motto, fighting for your faith, family, and freedom.
Yes.
Can you explain that motto?
Again, I'm not here with what my plan is for the city. I'm here for what the people's plan is for the city. And the people are telling me the things that they've felt that they've been losing is they've been losing their faith. They haven't been able to go to church, during COVID. That was a real big thing for a lot of people. That was, taboo to be in the big congregations, obviously, unless you're going to the grocery store or to a bar. But couldn't go to the gym, couldn't go to church. So people were really very upset about that. And our faith, our family, and freedom seems to be the three pillars that people really feel like have been taken down in the last 2 or 3 years. And so that's why I put that there, because I'm fighting for the people. And so I'm fighting for their faith, family, and freedom, even if they're atheists, that's their faith, So whatever their faith is, I'm there to support their right to exercise that faith and to take care of their family and where they need to take care of their family and their freedom. So that's what I'm fighting for, and so that's why that motto is there. I'm not going to forgive myself if I don't step up, knowing that I have the ingredients, the skill set, and what's necessary to get us on the right track and to basically save our small town. Yeah, I couldn't live with myself if I didn't do that.
Brian Campbell, candidate for mayor of Wenatchee in our next election. Thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you, Jefferson. Appreciate it.
You're watching the NCW Life channel.
The Wenatchee Valley. Here, most of us really enjoy the great outdoors, and most of us try to make the most of our natural resources. Here at Apple Valley Honda, we know that for generations, we have harnessed nature to sustainably power the West, and we are proud to be part of that tradition as an environmentally green dealership award winner. Being a green dealership means Apple Valley Honda has reduced our overall environmental impact. We are so proud to live in this wonderful community.
Getting ready to wrap up this Tuesday edition of Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. Don't forget, of course, it is Election Day. You got to get your ballot into your local auditor's office by 8 o'clock tonight, so sticking it in the mail ain't going to work. It ain't going to be postmarked today in all probability, so if you've been procrastinating or putting it off, whichever you prefer, your only bet to get your vote counted today is to drop off your ballot at your local auditor's office or at the drop boxes located all over Chelan and Douglas counties. And don't forget, at the Douglas County Services Building at the bottom of 19th Street, just for today, the Douglas County Auditor's Office is going to set up a special little office for you folks who haven't yet voted. And we will be posting results, by the way, on our Facebook page and our homepage as soon as we get them after 8 o'clock tonight. Forecast, sunny later on today, very windy at times, very windy. About 233 or so, but it won't last very long. 53 for our high today, so pretty warm. Sunny and mild on Wednesday, right around a normal high. No wind, high of about 49. a little rain perhaps for Veterans Day weekend. That's it for us. We will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Jefferson Robbins with NCW Life. The Wenatchee School District has 3 school board races up for decision this November. One of the candidates for one of those races joins me today, Martin Barron, running at large. Having spent 4 years on the board during a really tumultuous period, what do you feel like you've learned about steering a family of schools that you could then bring to another term?
I'm going to begin almost that it's more work than you realize, but you get back to a board needs to be collegial and work as a group. Statute-wise, our only authority is as a group. And in order to do that, you have to treat everybody with respect, and you also have to recognize how to work